I've made the point in past work, I'm sure I'll make the point in future work. Making the same point is something I'm particularly adept at. But you know, with these games like your Dark Soulses and your Bloodsborneses and your Eldenses, Ringses, there are plenty of gatekeepers, purists, get-gooders who sneer at certain weapons, certain abilities, certain builds, saying if it's too overpowered, if it makes something too easy, it's not a valid way to play. And I've always said that actually exploiting a weakness, taking advantage of a situation, winning by any dirty trick imaginable is entirely within the spirit of games like Elden Ring and Dark Souls. The worlds those games take place in are ruthless and will exploit your mistakes, your weaknesses any which way they can. They are dirty, grimy, underhanded worlds, and they will break you. So why not break them back? Games, after all, were made to be broken. The lobster isn't an every week thing, by the way. I do really like it, though. I love it when games are broken. Not like broken. Not like a Bethesda game. Lord, no, not like a Bethesda game. Oh wow, I literally just got a pop-up on Windows about Xbox bloody gaming. Fuck off, Microsoft. I'm not giving you $80 a game so you can spend it on war crimes. I mean, I love it when games are breakable. If not by design, then certainly in a way that both the developers and the players are okay with. We're talking about classic game breakers. We're talking overpowered weapons. We're talking system-shattering characters. We're talking hot cheese action. Done wrong, game breaking can lead to a quite literally broken experience, a combat system trivialized into meaninglessness, mechanics reduced to a skeleton of rote, repetitive inputs, you know, like a Bethesda game. Done right, however, and my word, there are power fantasies, and then there are power fantasies.
Broken brilliance!
Oh, I better say... mild late game gameplay, not story gameplay. Spoilers for Clair Obscur ahead. Not to keep banging on about Clair Obscur Expedition 33, but its embrace of ludicrous damage output and excessive decadent power gains has filled my heart with joy. You know how in a lot of RPGs the endgame opens up, gives you all these opportunities to get more and more powerful? Oh yes. Oh my yes. For as unforgiving as Clair Obscur's dodge and parry mechanics can be, that game reaches a point where, with the right builds, you can casually toss out tens of thousands of hit points worth of damage a turn, sometimes passively, and every single character has multiple potential builds with which to create multiple party configurations that can get you there. Or, you know, my L. That's it. That's the entire strategy. My L is the strategy.
Final round, fight!
As I write this script, I've just got done laughing at having gotten the character of Mael to a point where she deals over 6 million HP in damage before anything else gets a look in. It's quite simple. Equip her with all of the passive abilities that raise a character's damage the less HP they have. Use the move Last Stand, which changes Mael to her most powerful battle stance in exchange for losing all of her hit points. And then laugh. That's just a build I figured out in my own stumbling fashion. My colleague, Laura Kate Dale, has achieved the same output with a different Mael build and has started work on one of the other characters. Laura and I have been geeking out so hard together about this game. And all of this is just for starters. I don't have all the abilities, I haven't maxed out the characters. There's more to go. The game reaches this beautiful point where it's almost an entirely different experience. And I'm still tweaking and leveling and wringing more HP from the combat cloth. It's the kind of thing a lesser developer, a weak developer, would view as far too OP. They'd have patched that kind of thing out weeks ago already. Sandfall Interactive not only allows for it, the studio is reveling in it. The entire point of the endgame seems to be the dismantling of everything that's come before. Oh, and something's just hit me. Those thematic bastards. The game's creators are on social media outright challenging players to post their damage values and show how many ouch numbers they can pump out in a single turn. And like I said, my current progress is a mere hors d'oeuvre. This is all excellent. This is all brilliant. There are ways in which this could have been a terrible mistake, but Clair Obscur is just the kind of game to make it a genuinely exhilarating part of the overall experience. Plus, it does make you earn it. This is a transformation point, not the entire campaign. Only once you reach a certain point do you find your potential to hurt things skyrockets. And that comes only after hours of getting to grips with the beautifully designed combat system. Also, even in my current position, I'm still finding a monster or two that'll put up a fight, and such opposition becomes a new milestone, a new peninsula to climb. God, I love this game! Now, it has to be said that Clair Obscur did just get a patch that, to use the parlance of our times, nerfs perhaps the most brutal move the game has. And this is fine too. If anything, it just reassures me how deliberate a formula this battle system has. We'll talk about nerfing later on, but to the point about this game in particular, the move Stendhal just got a 70% damage reduction, and in a game full of OP moves, it's still perhaps the most powerful move in the game. Delicious. Anyway, I swear this is not another Clair Obscur video. Let's part the thighs on this topic. I love a good game breaker, one that makes you feel accomplished, but in a different way than triumphing over adversity. It's more like you've won a really cool prize. It can mean your time investment paid off. It can mean indeed that you did triumph over a tough fight to get a powerful upgrade, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. It could mean you searched high and low to find a super secret weapon, or did a bunch of insipid fucking minigames and was handsomely rewarded. In any case, you won the prize and you get to apply it in a way that makes the world pay. I like feeling as if I got one over on the game, and so long as that advantage has been earned in some way, it's rare that I won't get satisfaction from it. This kind of game breaker, the feeling of getting one over, goes back as far as time itself, or at least back to the early days of video games, back before they could patch them out. I'm sure most of you could point to any number of favourite games that feature weapons, items, abilities, characters, or classes that bust the whole thing wide open, tipping the scales so far in your favour that you're laughing until the credits. I'm also sure that some of these scale tippers are a bit of a shame, something that genuinely ruin the experience by making epic fights disappointing, skipping over vast sections, or otherwise sucking out the point. I'm sure some others, however, are very much not that. If I'm thinking of classic game breakers, my mind inevitably wanders to Final Fantasy, if for no other reason than that series is huge and storied enough that it's a good place to start when you're thinking of anything. Want examples of storytelling? Think Final Fantasy. Want examples of progression systems? Think Final Fantasy. Do you want ridiculously kissable boys? Just think Zack off Crisis Core, think of him often and vigorously. But yeah, the series has a ton of notorious items that can blow a game to bits. Just like how I want to blow Zack. Perhaps the most famous of the series, if not video games as a whole, is Knights of the Round, Final Fantasy VII's ultimate summon magic. It takes a huge time investment to acquire tied to the whole chocobo breeding stuff, but in exchange for the graft, you get an attack that is a huge time investment to sit through and fucking watch, if I'm honest. But in exchange for that graft, you get, well, this shit.
They keep going and going and going.
Let's take Final Fantasy IX, my personal favourite, and its resident blue mage, Queen of Quen. Blue magic spells, aka enemy skills, can be some of the most useless and some of the most broken and some of the most brilliant things in any Final Fantasy. Quina eats enemy monsters because they do what they want, you have problem, and can gain a range of attack and support skills in the nomming. Such absurdities include level 5 death, which instantly kills enemies whose level is a multiple of 5 up to and including monsters, designed to be among the hardest encounters in the game, and an entire dungeon where everything is leveled to die. There's also one of my series favourites, Mighty Guard, a significant physical and magical defense boost that I always make sure to get as soon as I can, and the Limit Glove, which always hits for max damage if Queen is kept at 1 HP. Barely a trade-off when you're killing shit quicker than it can hit you. Final Fantasy X has Riku's Limit Break as a particularly infamous example. She gets an ability, Mix, that lets her combine various items from the player's inventory to acquire different results in battle, and if you know the right cocktails, you'll kick anything you fight right in the cock. Tail. Trio of 9999. That's 4, is absolutely brutal, giving any character the ability to hit all the 9s with every single action they take, which includes healing via meager little potions. And of course it works with multi-hit attacks, chewing through most story bosses with absolute ease. All 3 of these games have plenty of other breakers, some carrying you only up to certain points, others easing the late game after you did the work to get them. Like Clair Obscur though, no matter how much they might break things, they were earned in some way. Or at the very least, the games themselves have so much more to offer that breaking a system doesn't mean ruining the game entirely. It's not the only way to do game breakers well, or if not well, in a seriously entertaining way. Wait, what's that sound? What do I hear approaching with all speed? Is it? Yes, I think it is. I see it. I see an excuse to talk about Sengoku Basara, and it's hurtling right to fucking toward me. Sengoku Basara's entire philosophy hinges upon the terminally broken. Broken characters with broken moves utterly breaking everything. When it comes to embracing overpowered and not giving a jolly green genital if things get trivialized, Sengoku Basara Samurai Heroes might as well reign supreme. This series has always managed to get away with its bullshit through sheer audacity, leaning so hard into everything it does that even the bad elements can come back around to being awesome, and that's what an entire roster of broken characters trades on. Awesomeness. Mogoichi, aka Gun Mommy, makes a mockery of the game's combat system. You just walk towards enemies hammering the gun murder button to do murders with guns. And it's awesome. It's so over the top and looks so cool that it never stops being entertaining. And so many characters are like this, just gorgeously animated death machines who make up for a lack of challenge with an overwhelming abundance of gleeful fun. And who really needs challenge if you're having a laugh, right? This kind of unilateral breakage only works if you truly commit to the bit, however. Sengoku Basara keeps itself from being a yawn fest by presenting its combat in as over-the-top fashion as possible. Mogoichi doesn't just shoot a gun. She goes from blasting a high-caliber hand cannon to pirouetting with a world-clearing shotgun to forever juggling with an LMG to making things boom with stuff that goes bang in mere instances, all before throwing every gun that's ever existed into the atmosphere and becoming the very hail in which bullets make their home. Now that is how you do broken. Such sweet preposterousness probably only suits certain games in certain genres. A Muso-style 1 vs loads action game like Sengoku Basara or Dynasty Warriors derives a bulk of its fun from mowing down hordes as a legendary warrior, so easy access to easy smackdowns is totally appropriate if not appreciated. You don't play as Lu Bu to feel like you just got out of the undead asylum. Trying to balance a game by making everything unbalanced doesn't always work out, especially if it's, say, a competitive fighting game. I recently watched a video on busted-ass fighter characters, and it mentioned Fist of the North Star, Twin Blue Stars of Judgment, and how it tried to capture the absurdity of the manga's godlike martial artists by making everyone OP, except for a couple of people. Well, didn't quite work depending on who you ask. While it has a cult following, it's regarded even by fans as a mess of a fighting game with infinites out the wazoo and, ironically, a whole ton of imbalance. Though with the 2 worst characters being Heart and Jagi, it's at least lore accurate to a degree. Oh, Jagi, you miserable needle-spitting, pillar-swinging, say-my-naming little bastard. Will you ever win? Thing is, the utter jank is considered something of a plus to many people, maybe one of the rare cases of a video game qualifying for so bad it's good status. Arc System Works sort of created a fighting game Sengoku Basara by accident, and I'm not even talking about that time Arc System Works created a Sengoku Basara fighting game. Twin Blue Stars of Judgment is completely bananas, nonsensically broken, and fans wouldn't have it any other way. Of course, the unironically good examples of game breaking are single-player experiences, and that's very important. Obviously, it's not fun playing online competitively when your opponent is so overpowered they're treating you like a disposable random encounter.
Wow, wrecked. Get good, noob.
If it's single player though, what's the harm? Who cares if such and such sword or so and so character is, as they say, OP? Well, lots of people apparently. But should they? I used to be an obsessive player of The Binding of Isaac, a game that perhaps more than any other cemented my love of roguelike games, as well as my appreciation for broken builds. For me, the most joyous aspect of the game was always acquiring the absurdly overpowered combinations of weapons and upgrades I could. It comes down to a lot of luck, but if you find stuff that synergizes together well, it makes every unlucky, brutal, grueling run you've had worth it. Take an item that's worthless on its own, like soy milk that increases your fire rate to obscene proportions but cuts your damage down to barely anything, combine it with something that pumps the damage right back up, and you become the one who spills. And that's just one of the more basic combos in the game. Problem is, over time, a lot of the most delightfully OP stuff got nerfed. With every update, every expansion, some of the best stuff would have its damage reduced, range shortened, or otherwise taken from top tier to mid, and I always thought, why? Why do that? It's a single-player game. Broken builds were a huge part of the appeal. Why do that? I like to feel as if a video game pits me against itself. The player versus the game. With Isaac at times it felt like it was the player versus the developer, like Edmund Macmillan was trying less to entertain his audience so much as beat his audience. And it's the developer's game, it's the developer's vision. Devs can nerf whatever they like, but I don't tend to like it when a game feels like it was designed specifically to defeat me. When I described Clair Obscur's embrace of game breakers to Phoenix, they said it was like the devs said, enjoy your toy. When I explained how other games nerf such things, they said, at that point you gotta ask whose toy it is. Is it your toy or the developer's toy? I'm not objectively saying that one attitude is better than the other. I'm not saying nerfs are universally bad. As I said earlier, Clair Obscur has nerfed a move and a weapon already. Stendhal was first deemed too weak by Sandfall prior to release, and they upped its damage pretty much at the last minute and apparently went too far the other way. Bear in mind, Stendhal has been depowered by 70% and can still one-shot late-game enemies, including optional bosses, with a build that takes advantage of it. I only just started using Stendhal post-patch, and I'm loving it. The weapon, meanwhile, could consistently make my L pump out 400% damage with everything she does, and it was obtainable early on, ages and ages before the point at which you're supposed to be thinking about shattering the combat system. That, I think, is a fair bit of nerfing. After all, you don't want to trivialise gameplay so much it becomes unfun. I still remember what happened with Deathloop.
Good point.
I am a consumer whore, and one in general if I'm honest, and I do have a bad habit of getting suckered into deluxe editions of games on occasion. This occurred with Deathloop, that Arcane Studios game with the cool presentation and interesting time-wanking concept. See, the deluxe edition came with a gun. A powerful gun, a game-breaking gun. I appreciate that it's called Eat the Rich, ironic as it is given its context, but that's as stylish as it gets. Magoichi wouldn't throw this thing in the air with the rest of her arsenal, she'd throw it straight in the bin. Immediately lethal, completely stealthy, and given to the paying player once the tutorials are out of the way, this weapon's exactly the kind of trivialization that doesn't work. Rather than letting players get one over on the game, Eat the Rich lets them circumvent it entirely and do so in the most soulless, boring way possible. It's a game with all sorts of toys, but with that gun, you point, you press, you win. If you paid real money for it, you're gonna want to use it, but to use it is to transform Deathloop into something utterly monotonously boring. I should add, Eat the Rich is a variant of a weapon that can be found in-game, the Tribunal, which is still a game breaker but isn't handed to you immediately, although it still does make the game really boring. And ideally, whether it's paid or not, you don't want your game-breaking items to be boring, certainly not if they're coming at the expense of mechanically interesting stuff. Margoichi looks awesome, her fighting style is hilarious. It's not just point press win, it's point press wow. Of course, putting game breakers in as DLC and stuff like that just sucks in general, you're paying more money to play less of the game. But paid or not, I want my game breakers to be exciting, and a mundane gun that's just mundanely powerful excites me not. Then there's gameplay that is itself a game breaker simply by being poorly designed. Since apparently I've decided to just pick on Bethesda today, one of Starfield's biggest problems, among so many problems, was how easy you could make it with just a little luck, and I mean hardly any luck at all. You don't have to go hunting for rarities or working to unlock legendary items in Starfield. All it took was me finding one random gun to become the most powerful pronoun haver in the galaxy, capable of easily dispatching enemies at least 30 levels higher than me. Yes, 30. Like, what the fuck though? Just saying, when a game is based around breaking to a degree of finesse like Clair Obscur, lets you feel like you've scored a sneaky or hard-won advantage like Final Fantasy, or just committed to outright rule of cool extravagance and doesn't care how busted it is, these are the kinds of fucknanigans that I wholeheartedly encourage. So long as an exploit makes a game fun, then I say seize the day, and if a developer patches it out, then hey, they're making the game they want and that's cool, but you know, listen to your players, devs. The aim of most games is to entertain, and if the audience is having a total laugh, even if it's not in a way you're designed, I don't know, maybe that's a good thing? A win's a win after all. And your broken-ass game is what proves it. One last point that I don't really have an answer for is an issue very common in RPGs. It's the problem of the final story boss being an absolute pushover when you've done a whole bunch of side content, tackled far tougher optional bosses, and are basically that world's god. It's an issue that doesn't even need a particular game breaker to occur. Simple fact is, with the average RPG, the more you do, the more you level up. So the more of a completionist you are, the more of a game breaker you are. Now, I don't necessarily think that's an issue. It really depends on your frame of mind. Yes, it can be disappointing to have the big climactic showdown the story's been building to fizzle out in a turn or two. Personally, I often look at it as a case of I've been playing this game for dozens and dozens of hours, kinda don't want to be banging my head against a brick wall at the very end. I guess the easiest answer, and this could be said of a lot of what we've talked about, is you don't have to do it. You don't have to use the most powerful weapon. You don't have to overlevel. You don't have to use the Deathloop gun. I did. It made the game rubbish. And that's that. The point is, Clair Obscur is fucking amazing. Thank God for me.